Good afternoon, Staff Sergeant Duncan. Joe, as you say.
Yes, correct. Good afternoon.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to Swan River.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about you. You're new in the community. You've only been here a couple of weeks, but what is it you do? What is a Staff Sergeant, and what brings you here?
Okay, first of all, I'm entering my 15th year with the RCMP. I recently just transferred in from the Red River North Detachment, which was formerly East St. Paul, as part of the Selkirk Detachment area. I was there for about 6 months before coming to Swan River. Prior to that, I was in our criminal operations branch. So my role there was I was a policy analyst. So I reviewed and created RCMP policy based on legislation and changes to law. Prior to that, I was in the criminal operations branch as the emergency preparedness coordinator. So I liaised with numerous government officials when it came to floods, forest fires, and that kind of stuff. So prior to that, I was in Moose Lake for 2 years. Prior to that, Cross Lake for 3.5 years. Prior to that, Sandy Bay, Saskatchewan, and Cardiff, Saskatchewan. So I have a bit of varied experience.
You're pretty good to get through the list that quick. There's a lot of places.
yeah.
So the Staff Sergeant thing is kind of new to you?
It is, yes. I've done this. It's considered a detachment commander, so I'm in charge of the overall operations of the office. I have done this in previous roles in Moose Lake. I was a detachment commander as well. The only difference between Moose Lake and Swan River is a little bit more of an area and more members to manage.
Now, you know very well what you do, but a lot of people see an RCMP officer and they're not sure the difference between a constable, a corporal, a staff sergeant. All they know is you say police. What does it mean?
So a constable will be the one that will investigate calls for service, will respond to public inquiries. From there, we have a corporal who will supervise the constables. On top of the corporal, we have a sergeant who overall manages the operations of the Swan River Detachment, where my role is more of an administrative. I look after the overall training, getting members in and out of the community, looking at building maintenance, more that side of things.
Probably the first time you've been in a community with a giant swan.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me about Swan River. What was your impression?
So, Swan River has actually been kind of dear to me. I originally come from Gilbert Plains, Manitoba. So, when I was younger, I used to play hockey here quite a bit throughout my childhood. So, I've always passed through Swan River, going to communities like Moose Lake and Cross Lake and Sandy Bay. So, I was always attracted to the small town, the feel of the community. The way we were welcomed when we got here as a kid, and that really transpired to my arrival when I came here in the last couple of weeks.
Once you got here, what are you doing besides what you do with the detachment? Settling in, I assume.
Pardon me?
You're settling in?
Still settling in. So I have a young family. I have 3 young children, and my spouse who's on maternity leave right now. So we're trying to juggle between packing boxes and the new role. So aside from that, we are looking forward to, once those boxes are unpacked, is to ingrate ourselves in the community.
I know a lot of people have been after you. I've talked to the mayor. He came to see you already. What do you think about the Swan River on that side of it? I know a lot of people have been asking questions lately about the crime here.
Okay.
You've been other places. One of the things I'm always curious about, is this normal, or are we, like, I guess what I'm trying to go, are people here more sensitive to crime than maybe some other communities have been?
I think in my experience with the communities I've worked at, it's actually consistent. I think the way that the world has evolved, it may have changed things with the access to social media now, with the ability to basically capture events as they're happening. So I think there's a lot more of that, and I think that might be an increasing awareness. But in terms of that, compared to the other communities I worked at, I would say the crime rate is around the same.
Swan River is more than just crime, obviously.
Right.
We've got a lot of good things going on here. When you came to the community, some of the programs that are already in process to try and help things, make things better, are you impressed with what you see here?
I'm very impressed with what I've seen here. I learned of a file where an elderly woman had some plants stolen, and I was very impressed to hear and learn that the members actually went and replaced the flowers for that woman. So I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing here with our detachment membership and how they've ingrained themselves in the community as well, and how they've become part of the community.
Great. When you look at the community itself now, people are hyper aware of, even this morning we had another break-in. What do you tell people about that? What should people be doing? We've heard many times call the police when you see something. Is there more to it than that, or is that still the best thing?
It is the best thing not to approach someone in this circumstance with the abilities of phones recording the event, taking down details such as descriptions, possible vehicles, location of where it happened, if they're in a vehicle, the license plate for that vehicle. So just being situationally aware to what's going on and just observing what's going on.
Could you maybe comment for a bit? There's always been the advice. In the last few months, we've seen incidents where there's trying to be knives or other weapons involved when someone does try to confront somebody. That's new here.
Right.
More important, I assume, now with that sort of escalation.
Right. Again, I would not approach anybody just based on the potential. As police officers, we're trained to presume that if someone always has a weapon, so that's how we are trained, that's how we respond to a situation. So for the public to respond, it's not advisable to potentially create a harmful situation for themselves.
Let's end on something happy. I mean, you're going to call home, tell some family about this new town you're in. What are the highlights of what you're going to tell them?
I'm going to tell them that there's an absolute beautiful golf course here. I love to golf. I was very... heart was warmed when I arrived my first day here and I found a loaf of bread and a batch of cookies on my front doorstep. So any concerns I had about coming to the community, it was quickly quashed when I was able to meet some of the people in the community, my neighbors, the detachment members, even mayor and council. So it's been a very welcoming experience.